By the time my sister got engaged, I had already learned how to disappear neatly. That's not a metaphor, it's a skill. You learn it when asking for help turns into an argument about tone, when emergencies are reframed as personal failures, when attention is something too. Whoever performs best, you learn to make your needs small, then quieter, then invisible. My sister never had to learn that. Her life unfolded with witnesses. The wedding was announced in a group email. Venue photos attached, dates locked. Budget casually mentioned the way. Weather is mentioned, $100,000. Not as a brag, as a fact, as if that number were simply what love cost. I read it on my phone in a hospital waiting room. 3 months earlier, I'd been in a car accident that didn't make the news and didn't make family plans shift. I broke my leg in 2 places. I lost my job while recovering. The landlord gave me 30 days and a look that said he'd already moved on. I told my parents, carefully, briefly, with the kind of emotional moderation you learn when volatility is punished. My mother said, "That's unfortunate." My father asked if I had looked into disability. They didn't come. They didn't send money. They didn't call. Again, I survived the way people do when survival isn't romantic. Friends rotated. Couches, a church I didn't attend. Covered 2 months of rent. A social worker helped me fill out forms I didn't know existed. I learned which grocery stores discounted produce at night and let you split payments without humiliation. I didn't tell my parents any of that. There was no point. Silence had already been negotiated. So when the wedding details arrived, I wasn't angry. I was confirmed. Didn't begin with a fight. It hardened like calcium. I stopped updating them. They stopped asking. Holidays passed without comment. My sister and I exchanged occasional messages, photos of centerpieces, dress fittings, menace. I replied with thumbs up emojis and the practice neutrality of someone who has accepted their role. The wedding happened. It was beautiful. By all accounts, there were speeches. There were tears. There was a video montage of childhood moments I recognized but had never been central to. I watched it later alone on a cracked screen. Then 2 years after the accident, my parents showed up at my door. I almost didn't recognize them. They looked smaller, as if gravity had finally noticed them. My father leaned on the railing. My mother's hair had gone fully gray. They stood there with the posture of people who had rehearsed humility and hoped it would be enough. They didn't mention the wedding. They didn't mention the accident. They said my father's health had declined. They said money was tight. They said they needed help just for a while. I let them talk. I noticed how they avoided specifics, how they framed need as temporary and obligation as inherited. How they did not ask how I was inside. Something tugged, compassion maybe, or habit. The old training that said relief was earned by compliance. I asked one question, "What are you asking me to do?" They glanced at each other. My mother said with thought, "You could manage the payments. Maybe you're good with paperwork." I nodded, not agree. I told them I'd need time to think. I didn't invite them in. That night, I opened a folder on my laptop I hadn't touched in years. It held documents from my recovery. Discharge papers, denial letters, the social worker's notes, a record of every unanswered message I'd sent during those months, not to weaponize, just to remember accurately. I had prepared a long time ago without knowing it. The final move wasn't dramatic. It didn't involve raised voices or ultimatums. It Involved a lawyer I had already consulted when I rebuilt my credit and my life. It involved boundaries written in language that didn't bend under pressure. I invited my parents to a meeting, neutral location, mediator. Present, no ambush. They arrived. Hopeful, that hurt more than anger would have. The mediator explained the structure before I said anything. Any financial assistance would be conditional, limited, and rooted through a trust designed to cover specific needs, no co-signing, no open-ended support, no rewriting the past as a misunderstanding. My parents protested, softly at first, then with confusion, then with a familiar edge that hadn't worked in years. I didn't argue. The structure did. The mediator slid a document across the table. It included a timeline of my accident, my requests, the responses I received. It wasn't an accusation. It was a record. Authority entered the room without emotion. My mother cried. My father went very still. I offered what I could offer safely. Help administered through systems, not sentiment, care without access, support without control. They declined. They left angry, then ashamed, then quiet. Afterward, I sat in my car and waited for the expected emptiness. It didn't come. What came instead was a steady fatigue, the kind that follows a long illness when you finally stop fighting the wrong thing. I still think about them. I still wish circumstances had made them different. I still attend my sister's milestones from a distance, careful and kind, but I don't confuse proximity with care anymore. The final move they never saw coming wasn't punishment, it was preparedness.